Ready to go. So we will call the meeting to order, a regular council meeting for Monday, September 25th. It's about almost 10 after 7. Apologies for the delay, folks. We just had to finish up a public hearing of just prior to this meeting. So I will hand things over to our clerk, Shelley, as our CAO is out ill this evening, to do the roll call of councillors.
Councillor Sean Sampson.
Present.
Councillor Michael Digdon.
Present.
Councillor Melanie Sampson. Sends her regrets. Warden Amanda Mumberket.
Present.
Deputy Warden Brent Sampson.
Present.
Thank you, Shelley. And I will just maybe mention also for the folks at home, we are getting used to a newly revamped microphone system, so we'll be pressing buttons a little bit, and if we stumble a little bit, that's what's going on as we get used to this new system. Okay, so items added to the agenda. Pardon me? Yes, that's right. Oh, yes. Thank you, Shelley. Sorry, I skipped an item there. So I'm going to ask everyone to rise if you're able to stand for O Canada. Thank you, everyone. So the items added to the agenda. We did have one item previously added, and it's regarding speed radar units, and that information was added to the agenda package earlier today. Are there any other items to add? Okay, so could I have a motion to approve, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion on the agenda? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. So we have a couple of sets of minutes to review. The first are the minutes from the regular council meeting of June 26th, 2023. Those were circulated in advance, and if there are no errors or omissions to report, then I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve those.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Motion is carried. Okay, the next minutes are the August 21st special meeting. Just want to say thank you to councillors again for coming in and taking care of some pressing business on that. So if there's no errors or omissions in the minutes from the August 21st meeting, could I have a motion to approve, please?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Councillor Digdon.
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson. Any now we are going to open for a question period, and this is a 10-minute maximum question period. It is restricted to items on the committee reports, and the committee reports this evening are our Committee of the Whole, Bylaw Policy, and Planning Advisory Heritage Committee report. The phone-in number for those who are not with us in the gallery, if you'd like to call in with a question, the area code is 902-226-9885. That's 902-226-9885. Or I'd invite members from the gallery, if you have questions regarding the committee reports, please feel free to approach the podium. We'll just give that a minute. Okay. Well, I'm not hearing the phone ring, so, and it's quiet inside the gallery, so I will ask Deputy Warden Brent Sampson to provide our first committee report, Committee of the Whole. It's a lengthy one, so over to you, Deputy Warden.
Committee of the Whole report, September 2023. The committee met on September 11th, 2023. The committee discussed the active living strategy and recreation plan. I move that Council accept the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to defer the decision to adoption the active living strategy and recreation plan to the next regular Council meeting.
Motion's been made. Can I have a seconder on that, please?
Yep, I'll second that motion.
Motion is carried.
The committee discussed the Honoring Two-Eyed Seeing SEPI conference. I move that Council accept the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to defer the decision of sponsorship for the Two-Eyed Seeing conference to the next regular Council meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried.
The committee discussed nominations for the Municipal Emergency Management Advisory Committee. I move that Council accept the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to have Councillor Melanie Sampson and Warden Amanda Mummerket be appointed to the Municipal Emergency Management Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Deputy Warden.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, you'll second that motion?
Second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson. I think there's probably a requirement for the warden to be there, is there? Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'd be open to either one. I know these are committees we need to get, we need to get underway. So yeah, for sure. I just wanted to note that. Thank you.
I felt you should have been on all three, but I was.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
The committee discussed nominations for the Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee. I move that Council accept the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole to have Councillor Michael Digdon and Councillor Sean Sampson be appointed to the Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Can I have a seconder on that motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? Right, that motion is carried.
The committee discussed nominations for the Fences Arbitration Committee. I move that Council accept the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to have Deputy Warden Brent Sampson be appointed to the Fences Arbitration Committee.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Can I have a seconder on that motion? Okay, it's been seconded by Councillor Sean Sampson. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
The committee discussed the Warden's Council report. I move that Council accept the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to accept the Warden's Council report.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, the motion's been seconded by Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
The committee discussed the health information fridge magnets for first responders and EHS. I move that Council accept the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to have staff investigate if other municipalities and emergency health services have programs for health information magnets or similar currently in place and report back to Council.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Councillor Sean Sampson has seconded the motion. Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
The committee discussed the 2024-2025 application for the cost-shared J-Class road paving. I move that council accept the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to defer the discussion on selecting J-Class roads for the application for cost-shared paving to the next regular council meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? Motion is carried.
The committee discussed the request for support of a province-wide voluntary vulnerable person registry. I move that council accept the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to support the resolution for a province-wide voluntary vulnerable persons registry, and further move to defer the reading of the resolution to the next regular council meeting.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson. Any further discussion on the vulnerable person registry? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed?
The committee discussed the fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, FASD, proclamation request from Laura Squires, project coordinator for FASD NL. I move that council accept the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to support the request to declare the month of September as Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Awareness Month, and further move to defer the reading of the proclamation to the next regular council meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed?
The committee discussed the Right to Know Week proclamation request from the Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner. I move that council accept the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to support the request to declare September 25th to October 1st, 2023 as Right to Know Week, and further move to defer the reading of the proclamation to the next regular council meeting.
Thank you, Deputy Warden.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sampson. Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? Motion is carried.
The committee discussed the Food Cycle Science Municipal Pilot Program. I move that council accept the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to accept the Food Cycle Science Municipal Pilot Program as information only, and defer the discussion to budget time.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion on the Food Cycle Science Program? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? Motion is carried.
This concludes the Committee of the Whole report for the month of September 2023, and I move its adoption.
Could I have a seconder on that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson. Any further discussion on the Committee of the Whole report? It was a busy one. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the Bylaw and Policy Committee report. So we'll hand that back over to you, Deputy Warden, if you'd like to read through it. Thank you.
Bylaw Policy Committee report, September 11th, 2023. The committee met on September 11th, 2023. The committee discussed the CAO Employee Success Plan policy. I move that council accept the recommendations of the Bylaw Policy Committee to adopt the CAO Employee Success Plan as presented with the following changes. Section 4.1, add the words Appendix A to the end of the sentence. Section 6.1b, remove the words Appendix A and insert the words CAO Employee Success Plan.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Warden.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion on the CAO Employee Success Plan policy? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? Motion carried.
The committee discussed the RCMP Advisory Board bylaw. I move that council accept the recommendation of the Bylaw Policy Committee to have staff inquire if the criminal record check can be included in the application process, and further move that the RCMP Advisory Board bylaw be moved to the adoption process and first reading approval.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Could I have a seconder on that?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson. Any further discussion on the RCMP Advisory Board bylaw? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? Motion is carried.
This concludes the Bylaw Policy Committee report for September 11th, 2023, and I move its adoption.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Could I have a seconder on that motion, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon has seconded the motion to adopt the Bylaw Policy Committee report. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? That motion is carried. So the next item on our agenda is another report, the Planning Advisory and Heritage Committee report. And this report I'll also, I guess, hand over to you, Deputy Warden, as you chair that committee. So,
Planning Advisory Heritage Committee report, September 19th, 2023. The committee met on September 19th, 2023. The committee discussed the review of the recreational vehicle provisions within the Isle Madame planning area. I move that the Planning Advisory/Heritage Committee recommend to Council to approve the amendments to the Isle Madame Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw to allow for small-scale campgrounds and recreational vehicles to be used as a seasonal main dwelling or seasonal accessory dwelling as of right within the Rural General (RG) zone and Rural Resource (RR) zone, and to insert the accompanying definitions, and further move that Council give first reading and schedule a public hearing.
thank you, Deputy Warden. Could I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. So, okay.
I think, Madam Warden, the only thing I think we should look at is that, and I'm sure it's a broader conversation than tonight, but I know I've had across Richmond County, our zones are so separated and so split up that this bylaw is great for people in my district, but also not so great for people in other parts of others' districts. So I just think it's something that we're going to have to sit down and really bring everybody under the same umbrella.
Any other discussion on that item? Okay, just maybe I'll note that when the public hearing is scheduled, it will be advertised in the local newspaper, The Reporter. We will generally have those advertised digitally on our website, the Eastern District Planning Commission website, our social media, so that would be our Facebook, as well as local community television channels. So watch for that notice, and yeah. So any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
The committee discussed the road name request for Cans Point Road and Cans Point Extension located in Forshaw, Richmond County. I move that the Planning Advisory Heritage Committee recommend to Council to have the EDPC provide guidance on the process of renaming the existing road names of Cans Point Road and Cans Point Extension to Cans Point Road and Cans Point Extension. Now, just to clarify, it's a misspelling. So me reading this off, it sounds the same, but it's removing an E.
Thank you, Deputy Warden, for the clarification. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson has seconded the motion. Any further discussion on that item? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed?
This concludes the monthly report of the Planning Advisory Heritage Committee for the month of September 19th, 2023, and I move its adoption.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Could I have a seconder on that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon has seconded the motion to adopt the Planning Advisory Heritage Committee report for September. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. All right. Thank you very much, Deputy Warden. It's been a busy couple months. Lots going on. All right. So the next item on the agenda is a motion to adopt, and this is regarding the CAO Employee Success Plan policy, which was just referred to from our Bylaw and Policy Committee report. And I'll just ask for a motion from Council to adopt the CAO Employee Success Plan policy as a policy of the Municipality of the County of Richmond, should you agree to do so. Would someone make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Could I have a seconder on that?
I'll second that.
All right, the motion has been seconded. Is there any further discussion on the employee success plan policy? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion is carried. All right, the next item on the agenda is a first reading regarding the RCMP Advisory Board bylaw. And the purpose of the bylaw is, again, as was referred to earlier, it's to establish the Municipality of the County of Richmond RCMP Advisory Board as mandated by the Nova Scotia Police Act, subsection 57(1), a body to provide advice to council relating to the enforcement of the law, the maintenance of law and order, and prevention of crime. And we've had this committee functioning, but just coming into compliance with the bylaw to ensure that we have a bylaw of our own established. So could I have a motion to give first reading approval for the RCMP Advisory Board bylaw?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Is there any further discussion?
One thing I would mention, just for a bit of information, regarding the recent conference with some of the information I picked up on this, out of 30, I believe, advisory boards within the province, there are 23 missing a provincial rep. So we are definitely not alone in that the province very much drags its heels on this and has been a point of contention for some of the members of this group for a long time. I think all we can do is try and keep making noise about that and have them. It's not an overly complicated process, but there was some discussion that weekend. The Deputy Minister mentioned, finding the right people with the right requirements, but nobody was able to find out what those requirements were. So anyway, it seems to be an ongoing issue across the province.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. That's a great point. I know we've also been, there's been a timeliness issue around the appointment of a provincial rep on our library board as well. So I think, yes, certainly some questions we could be asking to our provincial counterparts. Thank you. Any further discussion on that item? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, the next item is to give first reading approval for the proposed amendments to the Almadan Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw to allow for small-scale campgrounds and recreational vehicles to be used as seasonal main dwelling or seasonal accessory dwelling as of right within the rural general zone and rural resource zone, and to insert accompanying definitions. Could I have a motion to that effect, please?
I'll make that motion.
Councillor John Sampson has made the motion. Could I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Any further discussion on that item? Just the points you made earlier, certainly, yep. Councillor Digdon. Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. So I have an item, I guess, here regarding the Port Hawkesbury Joint Council meeting. So this is something, I know I'm really excited about. I know our CAO has been working on it as well with our counterparts in the town of Port Hawkesbury. Because we do have lots of areas of interest where we can collaborate, to work on regional projects. And so just wanted to run the process of creating the agenda by council, and what, my intent is to propose that basically the warden and the mayor would develop the agenda items, that they would have to be agenda items that are mutually agreed upon by both parties, in order for them to land on the agenda, to ensure that we have really productive conversations, and also would invite councillors from this table to provide ideas about what those agendas might, could be, if you have some, so that we can, potentially include them in what we propose for the agenda for that joint council meeting. So are councillors generally in favor of that approach? Yeah? Okay. I don't think we need a motion to that effect, but I just wanted to make it clear, and public that that's how we'll proceed if you're in agreement, and we'll go from there. Okay. So the next item, so thank you, folks. And the next item on the agenda is correspondence. And by some miracle, there is no correspondence that is listed as action required this month, and also no correspondence that is for information purposes only. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. And that is an unfinished business section of our agenda. We have a couple of items. So the first one is the DNRR/ACOA project proposal, which has been pushed forward by, or brought forward with a recommendation from staff to support this work. So there has been a full summary from staff, a memo provided in our agenda packages, and it is really dealing with, some of the items that, have come about as a result of the new renewable energy that is, potentially being planned for the area, and how Richmond County can, working with the town of Port Hawkesbury, can better respond to it. So it is a joint project. It's basically a project that looks at doing a strategic opportunities assessment and business case for our region, which I think, obviously would focus a lot on our heavy industrial lands, as well as, other supply chain type, work that could be done in the area. It talks about the establishment of a Nova Scotia offshore wind center of excellence, and it's a research type of venture that's being proposed. Talks about also looking at hiring a person to work with our councils and our municipalities to kind of manage the energy transition that's being proposed. As you know, we are home to the Point Tepper Generating Station. It employs a lot of people in our county, and we want to make sure that as Nova Scotia Power looks to phase out coal, as is required by government, that that we are part of that, engaged in that transition process and part of that process. So essentially what has been proposed is a budget totaling $950,000. And the suggestion from staff is that the municipality and the town would contribute equal amounts. I should say, for clarification on the budget, it's primarily provincial and federal money, the vast majority of it, to the tune of $800,000, and then the remaining $150,000 would be split by both councils. So $75,000 each over a course of 3 years. So what has been proposed by staff is that we look at providing $25,000 in each of the fiscal years to support that proposal, because there have been some savings due to, lagging hiring processes on a position that we had budgeted for anyway, so we can handle it for this fiscal year, and also that we would officially budget it for future fiscal years for the $25,000 in the next two to be part of this. So the funding partners from the province and the federal government will require confirmation that council intends to provide those funds, put those funds forward before they would release any funds. And I should say that staff at the Cape Breton Partnership, I want to do a shout out to Martin Thompson, has worked really, really hard on this proposal. It has been months long in the making, and he has been consulting with both federal and provincial and municipal officials in the creating of it. So I think it's come out as a strong document. So kudos to Martin for his work on this. And now I'll just open it for discussion. The proposals ahead of us.
So I'd be willing to make that motion to accept the staff recommendation to go with option 3 of accepting the proposal and pay our share of the $25,000 per year over the 3 years of the project.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Could I have a seconder on that?
I'll second that motion.
Sampson, is there any further discussion on that item?
I'm just kind of smiling over here as the clerk was passed me the 7-page document, and the highlighted one is the $25,000 for IT technicians, and at the same time I couldn't get I can't get connected, so.
Working on that, Councillor Digdon, yes. And I think the thing to keep in mind here is that this is at a proposal stage. It is not at a contract stage. So there is still some, work to be done with both the federal and the provincial government to come to contracting, a point of contracting, and certainly we'll want to have some information, a job description that will come out publicly, as well as some information about the project. Maybe we could work with staff to kind of even put a little section on our website, something that, to make sure that the public is well aware of the work that's going on, and has access to that information. Okay, so if there's no other discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. So the next item on the agenda, I think we'll have a little bit more in-depth discussion as well on this, is the application for the cost-shared J-Class road paving. So we do have some data that was provided to us in advance by staff, a list of the J-Class roads in our community. These roads would be eligible for 50-50, so 50% financing between the municipality and the province. And if I'm recalling correctly, it would take potentially dirt roads to paving status, but also, I think, is it pave repair as well?
Some of them are paved, some aren't, yeah.
Okay, so I'll open that for comments from councillors. We had 3 roads submitted in 2022, Lobster Plant Road, Sampson in Cape Auguste, Sampson Road in West Lordways, and Marchand Lane in Lewisdale. Marchand Lane is the one that we moved forward with, but it's noted that tendered pricing has not yet been provided by the province. So it's a process that takes quite some time, even should we make a decision this evening. So I'd like to open that for discussion. Councillors, you have some thoughts on this one?
Marchand Lane is completed, though.
Is it completed?
Yeah.
So our memo says that the tendered pricing hasn't been received. Okay, I'll clarify that with staff, no worries. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that's completed. That's great.
So the Lobster Plant Road is next?
Well, I think that's up for discussion, right?
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
So that was our top one on the priority list, and the province determines if they want to go ahead with it, but I'm fine with leaving that at the top of the list,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, in my district and the employment and everything, that road is very important to this area, right? So I would like to keep it on the top of the list for sure. Yeah.
So my only other one I had brought up a couple of weeks ago, and I know there's one from a district on here already, so it can be at the bottom of the list or whatever, but I'd like to get added Kings Road, and partially because of the culvert situation that several times over in storms now having erosion issues, and this would be a way that would probably force that to get fixed.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. To your point, it's an unfortunate situation that we would look to this program to deal with something that should be a straight repair, but I know that there's only so many resources to go around. I guess the question is, based on the note we got from staff, it talks about the cost for upgrading, could exceed $600,000 per kilometer. That's a very high rate, but I think it's reflective of the inflationary prices we've been seeing in tendering lately. I know that the province has been struggling with that as well. I guess the question is this even something we want to participate in at this stage of the game? And if so, which road will we put forward? And it sounds like Lobster Plant Road would be the top of the list. So.
I'm perfectly okay with, we've had these discussions before, leaving the order as is.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that to the bottom of the list, basically.
And so you're in favor of participating?
Yeah, I think so, because honestly, I think, as councillors, I don't know, probably the top thing we get contacted about is road issues. And I kind of feel like if there is anything we can do to help that, I'm more than in favor of it. But at that time, when it comes back, we may have to make that decision depending what the numbers come back at that time.
Yes, that's a great point, Deputy Warden. So again, it is just a proposal that we would be putting forward. It's not a contractual obligation at this point. Councillor Michael Digdon, are you in favor of putting forward a road for consideration?
Yeah, I'm in favor of, I guess, leaving it on the list. I think it's something that we have to, look at, year by year. Honestly, just with the cost of everything, you can't, $100,000 today is $300,000 tomorrow. So you know, I'm also in favor of going back to what we suggested back at the Lobster Plant Road, which was to see if anybody was, if they, and again, they have a new owner, so maybe something to look at, seeing if they're willing to do a cost share 3 ways instead of 2 ways between us and the province.
That's an interesting point. I think too, I mean, it's, you know, we could look at even a portion of that road, you know, would be helpful if, you know, so I think we'll look at what, you know, if you're in favor as well, Councillor Sampson, we'll look at putting that one forward perhaps to the province at this time, look at the pricing that comes back and see if there's some stretch that we can negotiate there. Okay.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of that for sure. Yeah, thank you.
Madam, oh, sorry.
Deputy Warden has made that motion, and I think I forgot to press my button, so in case it wasn't clear to folks, it was, we're going to submit the application to the province for cost-shared paving of J-class roads in order of priority of Lobster Plant Road, Sampson Road, and Kings Road. And Deputy Warden has made the motion. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, Madam Warden, I think the reason I had held off last time was I just wanted to overlook the J-class road, so I would like to add Forgeron Road onto that list.
Okay, I jumped the gun on the motion then. So could we have a friendly amendment then to add Forgeron Road? Are you okay with that being in fourth position there? Okay. Okay, so the friendly amendment is that it's Lobster Plant Road, Sampson Road, Kings Road, Forgeron Road. Thank you. All right, any further discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. Thanks, folks. We'll see what comes back from that, and hopefully we can get some work done. The next item on the agenda is the Active Living Strategy and Recreation Plan. So the plan information has been provided to us by recreation staff. It's a very thorough document, and it's kind of exciting to see it all kind of coming together in one solid plan. At this stage of the games, staff is recommending that we make a motion to approve the active living strategy and recreation plan as presented, or if we have corrections, or if we would like to table this discussion for a later time. So, any open for discussion, councillors, or a motion? All right, so I'm not hearing any discussion, so if I could ask for a motion to approve the active living strategy and rec plan as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Deputy Warden, is there any further discussion on that item? I just want to say congratulations to the staff and the consultants for the work that they did on that. I think it's a really great document, and yeah. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Honoring Two-Eyed Seeing CEPI Conference sponsorship opportunity. I was sad to miss the committee of the whole meeting earlier this month. I was stuck in an airport and on the road for no purpose, but yeah, but I heard it went really well, and then I watched the video afterwards, so yeah, thanks to Stan and Ron for coming out. I know that they are seeking a recommendation, or I guess an approval from council of a sponsorship opportunity around this, what I think is going to be a groundbreaking conference. It's really exciting. I'm a little biased. I'm currently the co-chair for the CEPI Management Committee, so this has been top of the priority list for us for some time. But I'd like to open this for discussion from council, because they have provided some sponsorship options for us to consider. I think the range was anywhere from the $5,000 mark to $25,000 mark. So just open for discussion from council. Was it 2,500? Yes, 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 you're right. Okay, yeah. So 2,500 to 25,000. It's a broad range. So, councillors, I'll open for discussion. Does anybody have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think it's, well, I'm sitting over here in the dark, to be honest with you, because I don't know if everybody else lost their connection, but I can't open up any of my, but yeah, I know. Is it something that we can put off to our budget?
It's happening in November, so.
Yeah, I know the conference is it's coming up. And I did not get a chance to connect with Troy today on this because he's been out sick. But he has provided a recommendation that we refer it to the grant application process to see if it qualifies for maybe grant funding through there, which, certainly is a possibility, or if, he also discussed budget time, but that's obviously not going to work because it's well past the deadline. We don't really have a sense from staff as to what kind of budgetary room we may have right now because it's coming up mid-fiscal. I guess, in the absence, I'm a little uncomfortable making a decision without that input from finance staff as to what we can accommodate. But I also know we're in a time crunch. We could look at referring this back to staff and asking them to come back with a recommendation, and then potentially doing a special meeting to, maybe right after our committee of the whole meeting in October. With a single agenda item to just cover that off and meet the timeline, if folks are okay with that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would like to see the county of Richmond, I mean, we are vested in there, wholeheartedly, so it would be nice to show our support to the, one of the sponsorship packages.
I mean, it's the first time that... It's the first time that there's been a conference with this theme. It's an idea that originated with Elder Albert Marshall right here in Unama'ki. So it's unique to us, and I think it's important for us to be a part of it. But I just want to be confident in not overcommitting our financial resources without consulting a little bit more in-depthly with staff. So if folks are okay with that, we'll make the motion to refer back to staff and potentially make a decision at a special meeting in October.
I'll move that.
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder, FASD. It's a reading of the proclamation. And I'm just going to take a moment to bring that up. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Shelley. It's definitely easier on my eyes to have it print. Okay. So I'm going to just read the proclamation, and then I will be looking for a motion for councillors to support it. So the proclamation for Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder, FASD Awareness Month for September 23rd. It's whereas Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder, FASD, is a diagnostic term used to describe impacts on the brain and body of individuals prenatally exposed to alcohol. FASD is a lifelong disability. Individuals with FASD will experience some degree of challenges in their daily living and need to support with motor skills, physical health, learning, memory, attention, communication, emotional regulation, and social skills to reach their full potential. Each individual with FASD is unique and has areas of both strengths and challenges. Whereas FASD NL is a pan-provincial organization that educates, provides supports and resources, and raises awareness about FASD in Newfoundland and Labrador and throughout Atlantic Canada. And whereas FASD NL is leading a 3-year FASD prevention, awareness, training, and collaborative action project in the 4 Atlantic provinces. And whereas FASD Awareness Month is devoted to raising awareness of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder to improve prevention of FASD and diagnosis and support for individuals with FASD and broad public awareness helps to put FASD on the map. And therefore, I, Warden Amanda Mumbercat, on behalf of Richmond County Municipal Council, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2023 to be FASD Awareness Month in the Municipality of the County of Richmond. So could I have a motion to support?
I'll move to support that proclamation.
I'll second it.
Okay, that motion is carried. Okay, the next item on the agenda, so we'll get that signed, Shelley, and provide that back to you, and pop that up on our website, maybe do some social media around it and stuff. That'd be great. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Right to Know Week. So again, this is a proclamation that we've been asked to support. So the proclamation for Right to Know Week, running from September 25th to October 1st, 2023, kicks off today, so this is perfect timing. Whereas the Municipality of the County of Richmond has adopted the principles of openness, transparency, and accountability, and whereas the Municipal Government Act gives citizens a right of access to information in the custody or under the control of the Municipality of the County of Richmond, and whereas access to information ensures citizens of Nova Scotia have the opportunity for meaningful participation in the democratic process, and whereas a celebration of the right of citizens to access information will facilitate informed public participation in policy formulation, ensure fairness in government decision-making, and and permit the airing and reconciliation of divergent views. And whereas the Municipality of the County of Richmond joins all other Canadian jurisdictions and democracies worldwide in acknowledging International Right to Know Week, therefore be it resolved that I, Warden Amanda Mumbercat, on behalf of the Richmond County Municipal Council, do hereby proclaim September 25th to October 1st, 2023, to be Right to Know Week in the Municipality of the County of Richmond. Councillors, be supportive of that proclamation with a motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Could I have a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson. My voice is failing me a little bit here. All right. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. Okay, the next item on the agenda is reading of a resolution. So the resolution provided regarding the Volunteer Vulnerable Persons Registry. I know this is something we've talked about and, sort of informally around our table, so it's exciting to see this coming forward. The Volunteer Vulnerable Persons Registry resolution reads that whereas the climate emergency is here, recent wildfires and Fiona, God bless you, thank you. And climate change has been identified as a priority area of municipal interest. And whereas all Nova Scotians have a right to public safety, and this area is identified in one of 6 priority areas of municipal interest. And whereas the United Nations identified people with disabilities are 2 to 4 times more likely to die in a disaster. And whereas equity and community well-being in another priority area to serve the 30% of Nova Scotians and 41% of seniors identify as having a disability, and aging in place is being encouraged. And whereas First Voices are advocating for better emergency management and planning for people with disabilities, and whereas disasters do not respect administrative boundaries, as we well know, and whereas all 49 municipalities may not have the same technical capacity or paid staff and rely on volunteers to respond to these needs, and it's important for all Nova Scotians to have access to the same level of public safety. And whereas a voluntary vulnerable persons registry is recognized best practice in the emergency field, this is a voluntary registry, so those with privacy concerns need not register, and only location and accommodation needs are required data. A paid coordinator who manages the registry ensures it is constantly updated. And whereas HRM's Chief of Emergency Management in her report to HRM asking for a VVPR recently passed by them identified the risk of not doing a VVPR, death and injuries, outweighs the risk managing expectations of doing one. And whereas a leading expert in disaster planning and management, Paul Kovacs, Executive Director for the Institute of Catastrophic Loss, University of Western Ontario, says all mechanics of a registry have been sorted out, and every question that can be asked, there is an answer for. and therefore be it resolved that we at the Municipality of the County of Richmond ask the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, newly formed Public Safety Advisory Committee, to prioritize collaboration and partnership between municipal governments with possible support from the provincial government to ensure implementation of a voluntary vulnerable persons registry province-wide that are integrated into the 911 system, and be it further resolved, a copy of the resolution be sent to the NSFM and the minister responsible for the Emergency Management Office. So that is a lengthy resolution, and I'm seeking council support to make that resolution and forward it on to NSFM.
So moved.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Sorry, the buttons are still messing me up a little bit here. Any further discussion on that item? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. That was a lot of reading. Really appreciate the water from our Municipal Affairs representative, Ross McDonald. All right. The next item on the agenda is the review of the action items. And are there any questions about the action items? Again, I just want to say it's a fresh month back at the council table after summer, and I really appreciated being able to quickly sort through and see what I had left to do. So thank you, Shelley, for keeping us organized. All right, the next item on the agenda then are items added, and there was only the one previously added, so it is regarding the speed radar unit. So, Councillor Digdon had inquired about potentially deploying both of the radar signs that we had. So you'll recall we had budgeted for two of the speed radar signs, and essentially I think one has been deployed in West Ayrshire. It's been there for some time. But the question has arisen, so how do we ensure that, how do we ensure there's a consistent process for getting these things deployed in an effective manner or moved from one location to another on an ongoing basis, so that, council, staff, and the public are aware of what that process is. And I think the other question is, could we maybe make a motion to ask staff to investigate a location for the second unit as soon as possible, so that we could get that done through a motion, but then maybe refer to policy and bylaw for the development of a very simple process around how we can do that on a consistent basis. So that was my suggestion. I think that this is also being discussed at Police Advisory. So I think that input will be very valuable, or will be discussed at Police Advisory if it hasn't come forward yet. So that'll be valuable input, certainly relevant to that committee as well. So at this stage of the game, I'm wondering if council would be supportive of referring this item to bylaw and policy for discussion and development of a policy, and in the meantime, deploying the second radar speed signs as soon as possible. So I'll open for discussion. Or a motion.
Yeah, I think maybe a little discussion first, and then we can make the motion. But I agree. We have it. The second one's been sitting idle, and it's time to get it up. I'm not sure that although I have nothing against the Police Advisory Committee weighing in on it, I think it's I think the phone calls come to our table first, or each councillor first, with the issues. Therefore, again, not that I don't feel that the Police Advisory Committee should weigh in, but I think it's something that each councillor kind of has to take in on their own. And yeah, we can, pick locations with staff and find out obviously we're not going to move them weekly. But again, it would be nice to have a rotation of some sort that we can look at.
I think the intent that the CIO had kind of described with police advisories, that they would potentially provide some input into what the policy could look like. You know what I mean? Because you're correct, it's generally councillors or staff that get the call, and it'd be great to have a way of channeling all that. When those calls come in, and how do we treat them, right? Like, how do we prioritize? So, any other discussion on this?
Should we move it seconded first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Just so the motion, I guess I'm thinking, would be to refer the item to Bylaw and Policy Committee for discussion.
I'll move that.
Yep, I'll second that.
Okay, the motion's been seconded by Councillor Michael Digdon. Any further discussion?
Yeah, so my thoughts, I'd agree with Councillor Digdon. I think, some councillors are getting the calls, know where they may be required. It's not to say that police advisory couldn't have a hand in it, but I think originally when we spoke about this, there was 2 or 3 areas discussed. So I was just under the assumption those would be the first ones prioritized. I know I didn't have anything on the list at that time, so I'm fine with, I'm not going to push for somewhere at this time because I know the concerns were brought from other councillors.
Thanks, Deputy Warden. Yeah, no, for sure. I think the areas were West Arishat, location in Lewisdale, which I think has been withdrawn, and then Scoose? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, being on the police advisory committee, I think, every month or every meeting, we usually get a report on, offenses and traffic stops and all that stuff. So I think, you combine that information with the calls that we're getting as counselors, and you identify the area of concerns, and then we act accordingly when it comes to a situation. You take all that information and you ask the officers in questions during these meetings where they would see, if they gave 15 offenses and 5 of them were in this area, then maybe that's an area of concern that we should be all concerned about, right? So, having said that, I do have an area of concern in Arishat on Highway 206 on the high road. Goes from a 50 to a 70, but there's complaints that a lot people are driving more than 70, right? So I'd like to see, maybe one set up in that area sooner than later, right?
Thank you, Councillor Sampson. So we could have a second motion to deploy the units after we refer to, the process to policy and bylaw, if you're so inclined.
Yeah, I think if we can come up with a policy that's fairly simple, I don't think we have to overcomplicate this one going forward. But I'm also cognizant of the amount of items we have on the policy and bylaw committee list. So I don't know that it's one that's going to be top of the list, that it may take a while before we get this sorted out. In the meantime, I'm more than happy with if, councillors from District 1 and 2 have somewhere they would prefer to see it at the moment. I have no objections to that. Yeah, and then it'll give us time. I agree. I would rather see the second one. I mean, if it's paid for, why not have it being in use?
Okay, thanks, Deputy Warden. So why don't we complete the motion on referral to bylaw and policy with a vote, if folks are okay with that, and then we'll do a second motion to ask staff to deploy in a couple of locations that have been identified, and I think were identified in the beginning of our conversations. So any further discussion on the referral? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. All right, so perhaps now we could have, or consider a motion on moving the sign in the unit in West Arishat to the high road and then putting one into Scoose. Does that make sense? Or would you just rather see the one that's not utilized at this point be implemented in one of those 2 locations?
I think I'd like to see them both move, Madam Warden, or one set up and one move. However, I do recognize that it's a staff position that's required to do it, and they are busy. Maybe we can just send it off as a memo to staff that we discussed it, and a recommendation that if they can please set up the one that's not in use, maybe in the Arishat area, in the District 1 area first, and then possibly move the location of the current one in District 2 to a different location, and that would be on the north side.
Yeah, I would suggest that maybe we add in there that staff coordinate with councillors Digdon and Sampson, just so that it ends up in, where you'd like to see it.
That sounds great. So the intention then, I guess the consensus is that we would ask staff to look into setting the one up that's not in use on the high road, and to move the current one over to the north side from West Ayrshire. Okay, and to coordinate with you folks on that based on where you're getting the complaints. I think that's great, yeah. Okay, perfect. So we won't make a motion to that effect. We'll just make that as a recommendation to your point because it will require some staff resources and this is a very busy time of year, so. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the question period. So this is restricted to the remainder of the agenda following the committee reports. And for folks who are in the gallery, we'll just ask you to approach the desk if you have any questions about the items on the agenda following the committee reports, or if you're at home and you'd like to phone in, the phone number to call is 902-226-9885. We have a maximum of 10 minutes for this question period since it's our second one of the evening. So again, that number is 902-226-9885. Oh, hello, Lisa. Over to you.
Hello. I just had a question regarding the J-Class Road paving. And I understand that Lobster Plant Road seems to be the one that's going to be done. I'm not sure which roads are classified J-Class in the region, but I do know that Lobster Plant Road has 3 residents on there and an industry at the end of the road, and it's probably about 1 kilometer long. My question is, what are the commitments of the municipality for ongoing paving once the initial paving's been done? Is this a one-time thing, or is this something that the municipality is committed to maintaining in that same ratio going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. In the current program, it's a one-time investment. So we would put forward the proposal. The provincial government will come back with the estimates, and then we will decide whether or not we can financially feasibly proceed. And if we do proceed, the work gets done. The road remains as a provincial road, but it does remain as a J-class. So if there were further paving or work to be done, then it would be as those instances came up, it would be considered for the 50-50 program if it qualified. So it's a one-time commitment that we'd be making at this stage.
So in my
And I'm sorry, Lisa, but we can provide you with a list of the J-class roads too. There's quite a few of them, but many are really, really short. Yeah.
in my experience, we have a property on Marble Mountain Road,
Mm-hmm.
which was once a paved dirt road, and we live beyond the section that has not had paving for some time.
Okay, can you answer that?
It would have been best if they would have kept it unpaved or even
Hi, good evening. Can you please hold?
once or twice a year, rather than having paved it at all.
Yeah, you're making a great point.
The Lobster Plant Road could last a long time with the 3 residences, but I'm there often, and there is a lot of industrial traffic on that
Yeah.
road. It's not that I would want to see those 3 residents lose their paving if that's what they really wanted, but I don't think that the pave will last longer than it would maybe on Forgeron Road or other roads where there is not an industry. That's
Yeah.
my-
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great feedback, and you're 100% right about once it goes to pavement, it's a whole other level of maintenance that's required for sure. And we'll definitely consider that in our conversation. Thank you so much. Okay, and I believe we have someone who has phoned in. Telephone, so you can go ahead with your question, but I'd like you to identify yourself first.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, on the telephone.
Robbie Fougere, District 1.
Hi, Robbie.
How are you?
Good. You can go ahead with your question, sir.
I can go ahead now?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, this is under the, you just proclaimed this week as Right to Know Week. So I'm wondering if you could entertain the following questions. I would have a number of them, if given your permission, of course. And please don't feel that they have to be answered tonight.
Okay,
You might want to defer them to subsequent meetings.
sure.
So here are the questions. What are the priorities of Council for 2023-24 as a result of the strategic plan refresh that the Council adopted in September of 2022, 1 year ago? So that would be my first question.
Okay, did you want to ask all your questions at this point, and we'll
Yes,
write them down?
maybe I should do
Yeah,
that.
you go ahead,
And
yeah.
so you have that first one?
Yes.
Yeah, the second one is has to do with the financial health of our county. And this is as per the Financial Health Index report that would have come in last spring, right?
Yes.
And reports in the media indicated that Inverness was the leading Cape Breton municipality in this regard, but there was no mention of our county, and to my knowledge, it has not been a topic of discussion at public meetings of council. So again, maybe I'd be interested in knowing what the Financial Health Index report meant for Richmond County. So that would be my second question. Again, it doesn't have to be answered right away, but if you could maybe look at that for the next meeting or a subsequent meeting.
Yeah.
And the third question I have is, why have we not yet seen a list of all grants given out to various groups during 2022-23, published in local media as per a requirement of the Municipal Government Act? This is something that used to be done on a yearly basis, and to date we have not seen, or I have not seen anyway, a list of all grants given out to various groups for the year 2022-23. So that would be my three questions.
Okay, so I'll start backwards, if that's okay. I'm going to start with the third one first. So the third one first is that I'm pretty sure that was published, but I know we corresponded about that in email, and I forwarded it to staff a number of times, and I will double check, and if it's not published, I will get it out there immediately, because we've always published that annually, and so I'll check on that right away, Robbie. It's a very simple piece, but I'm pretty sure that I saw the publication come through from staff, but I'll make sure, and then I'll email you follow-up to let you know where it's at, okay? The second question you asked about the financial health, I can tell you that generally Richmond County has fared pretty well on the index report, but I will look for a copy of it and make sure that it's posted on our website, and make sure that gets forwarded to you as well. And then in terms of the priorities of council for this year, there are several. I think one of the, some of them are reflected in the budget that we passed, and certainly that included hiring a new person to work on strategic projects and work with community groups, and that person I think has recently been announced, so we've acted on that priority, and that was really all about kind of, building capacity within our communities and making sure that we've got someone whose job it is to advance the strategic priorities that were identified in the plan. We've got also a new hire around information technology that is coming in, and that's to protect the security of the municipalities, but also our residents' data. We consider that a very, very high priority. So you'll see that reflected in some new hiring. Another priority was related to recreation. You should have every resident of Richmond County should have received a survey in the mail at this stage of the game, talking about a potential multi-purpose facility for our community. Our arena is a piece of aging infrastructure. We recently, just last week, had an issue with the refrigeration that's going to cause us to be delayed in opening by a little bit. Our staff is working so hard to keep it going, but we know that it is an aging piece of infrastructure and requires significant investment. So we're asking the public now to tell us what's the direction we should take on that. Do we continue to invest in the existing facility, or do we look at developing something new that's a right size for Richmond County? So those would be examples of some of the priorities. that we've undertaken. And I'll ask other councillors if you'd like to pipe in on that, like if
I think one of the priorities that's around our table is the wind energy and the hydrogen energy. I guess is something that we're focused on.
Yeah, certainly. So, Robbie, just this evening, we passed a motion to support a small investment that is leveraged quite well with federal and provincial partners to enable us to be, to transition our energy economy that we have here in Point Tupper from a fossil fuel-based one to a clean energy one. So that's good news for our residents, but also for the whole planet. So, yeah, those would be some examples of some of the priorities that we've picked to advance. I will tell you also, just in terms of a priority for us is also advancing work through our bylaw and policy committee, and you can see that happening with the recommendations coming forward. Our policies in Richmond County and our bylaws need to be continued to be tightened up. So we're going to be continuing work on that with support from staff. Does that answer your questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for calling in. I think we're probably just about at time, but maybe we'll just open for one last question if there's any. Okay, so hearing none, I'm going to move us on to the next item on the agenda, and it is, I believe, a motion to move in camera. So could I have a motion to move us in camera, please?
I was going to say, do we want to wait for the CAO for that one, or?
I have one item, yeah, that
Okay.
needs to be.
Okay, no problem. I'll move that we make the motion to move in camera.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion's carried. So we'll take a little break. Thanks, folks, for watching at home. We'll see you soon.